right, guys, so today, I need y'all to listen up. The microphone is not working. Today, we are going to be working on our Inertia Lab. Up on the screen right now, you will see a list of names. All I did was, I'm going to have you guys work in the same groups that you chose for your roller coaster project. So I put one person's name from that group. That's what this is. And this column here is 6th period. This is my 7th period. Y'all can ignore that. So you're looking at this column here. But for today's RA, for the Inertia Lab, the question at the top of the lab says, what factors affect an object's moment of inertia? And there are 3 factors, but you're only testing one of them. And so those are the 3 factors that are listed up here: mass, radius, and solidness. And so your group has been assigned one of those factors. You need to find your name, or somebody who was in your roller coaster group, find their name. Okay, so you can figure out what your factor is. The lab sheet tells you to highlight the factor that you're designing the experiment for. So you can highlight it or circle it, do something so that I can tell which one your group has. You should have already done the knowledge probe, hopefully, for homework yesterday. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to give you about 4 minutes to write a prediction to your group's lab question. So go ahead and take a couple minutes to write a prediction to your group's lab question and why you think that. Again, you don't get points off if it's wrong. It's a prediction. So put what your best guess for this. And I'm going to give you a couple minutes to do that. Then we're going to come back and talk about the lab a little bit more. All right, guys. Hopefully you have a prediction written out. If you do not, then you can do that in just a moment on your own or with your group. But for right now, I would like to go ahead and talk a little bit more about the lab. Again, yesterday you were supposed to have answered the knowledge probe questions that were asking about what inertia and a moment of inertia is. And so you should already know what inertia is from last semester when we talked about it with our forces, our dynamics unit. It is the tendency of an object to resist changes in its state of motion. And we talked about Newton's first law of inertia and some other things that were surrounding that. But it was basically a property of mass. It was entirely determined on the mass of the object. But again, inertia is resistance to acceleration. If we're talking about resisting changes to state of motion, that means we're talking about resisting changes to velocity, which means we're resisting acceleration. Moment of inertia, on the other hand, is the tendency of an object to resist changes in its rotational motion. So when we talked about inertia previously, we were focused primarily on translational motion and resistance to, moving like across the floor, for example. With this unit, we're obviously talking about rotation, and so the objects do also have a resistance to being rotated, or rotational acceleration. And so again, thus it is resistance to angular acceleration. It is a property of mass and mass distribution. And again, you're going to be investigating this in the lab today as well. So right now, what I need you to do is I need you to take a few minutes to write your own investigation plan. It's not written for you. There's a few questions down here on the lab to help guide you to write it. There's also a link to the digital simulation. So if I were you, I would take out your computer so that you can see what you're even able to do with the simulation. Okay, what changes you are able to make, but you do need to make sure that you design a valid experiment in which you are testing only one variable. Okay, and it should be the variable that you were assigned. So again, if you answer these questions underneath the investigation plan 1, 2, 3, it should help get your brain thinking about how to design a valid experiment. And then question 4 is where you write your investigation plan. It tells you that you need numbered steps, and it gives some more details. And by the way, number 4, you can continue on to the back of the page. There is more room there if you run out of space. You can also look at the following page because there is a data table provided for you in the observation section, and that might very well help you to think about the things that maybe need to be collected, and that might guide you as well as you're writing this. So again, get your computers out, head to the website. You can't even begin to write what you're able to do without knowing what materials are available to you in that simulation. So I'm going to give you, like I said, about 7 minutes to write your investigation plan, and then you can go ahead and we'll get started on the lab after that. Investigation plan, you're going to be completing your lab and just going through and following the steps that you wrote. Feedback, if you're choosing to turn in your lab for feedback, is due by Monday, and then your actual lab submission deadline is next Wednesday. As a reminder, tomorrow is the due date for your bump assignment and roller coaster data sheet and write-up. Both of those are due tomorrow. Additionally, you guys have test corrections that you've started. Some of you have already finished them, but those are due by March 4th, which is also your retest deadline. Okay, if you guys have any questions as you're working through today's lab, please let me know.